Welcome to Through the Looking Glass. And happy 4th of July. Happy America Day to everybody out there. On today's episode, we're going to be covering a couple different amendments here. We're going to be covering the 12th, the 15th, the 17th, the 19th, the 23rd, the 24th, and the 26th, which are all amendments to do with voting rights. But before we do that, as always, I'm going to hand it on over to Russ.
Welcome back to Through the Looking Glass podcast. Bunch of guys sitting down talking about different things, mostly in American culture, but just starting discussions about things. Please join us anywhere you can, Facebook, maybe Instagram, TikTok at some point, but primarily YouTube, Rumble, episodes almost every week. Schedules are, we're doing the best we can, and like, share, subscribe, follow, join us in our conversations, and let us know how we're doing. Comment how good we're doing, how bad we're doing. If we get anything wrong, correct us. We're learning on this journey as well.
We're never wrong.
We're never wrong, except for when water is.
Water's not wet.
This should be a good one. We're just
Water's not
about,
wet, and 1 + 1 does not equal 1.
Well, those are philosophical questions, which we may.
No,
answer.
1 + 1 = 1 is just wrong. That's not a philosophical question.
Okay.
That's just wrong.
According to Kim Jong-un.
You're gonna listen to him
Maybe
over the
Rocket
way
Man.
math has been for tens of thousands of years.
I mean, the man doesn't poop, so
That is
That is pretty impressive.
and he is basically a god.
Yeah.
So.
Basically, but not quite.
Let's kick it right off. So I think what we're going to do today is we're just going to run through them real quick and then give our opinions on voting rights here in the United States and how they've changed throughout the generations and decades in American history and what we think we should do moving forward with it, really. So, kick it off. 12, just to hit it right on the bat. 12th is electors.
Long.
Yeah, it is a pretty long one, but it just has to do with the electors, and this is what determines essentially what president we get. So, from my understanding with the 12th Amendment is there are a certain amount of electors in each state, and it isn't directly connected to popular vote, but it is. So, of course, if you're an elector of a certain district in a state and 90% of your constituents vote one way, but then you to vote against them, you're probably not going to get your seat back during your next election. So, I believe the 12th just covers electoral colleges and how they determine the presidency. Meet in their respective states, vote by ballot for president and vice president, one of whom at least shall not be inhabitant of the same. Oh yeah, that as well. You cannot have a president and vice president from the same state. I don't really see how that's important, but maybe. I guess you don't want to have two people of the same mindset in the same place. Vote for president, distinct ballot, voted for vice president. Yeah, this one is long. And just kind of very verbose for no reason. Yeah, electoral college votes. Adam, you want to hit number 15?
Right to vote not denied by race. Section 1. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Section 2. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation.
Pretty straightforward.
That was before women were allowed to vote, I'm assuming?
Yep, 15 was passed before the 19th. So, you can't segregate or tell people because you are of a certain race, you're not allowed to vote. That's pretty straightforward, and thank God we have that now. You said you have the 17th pulled. I don't. I have the
I do.
19th. So
Do we
far.
have when the 15th was implemented?
1870. Passed by
Really?
Congress February 26th, 1869. Ratified February 3rd, 1870. Yep.
And the 17th, popular popular election of senators. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, elected by the people thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. The electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of state legislators. When vacancies happen in representation of any state in the Senate, the executive authority of such state shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies, provided that the legislator of any state may empower the executive thereof to make temporary appointments until the people fill vacancies by election as the legislator may direct. This amendment shall not be construed as to affect the election or term of any senator chosen before it becomes valid as part of the Constitution.
And that basically just covers how the Senate is filled. Pretty straightforward as well. We have Congress. Those members are voted for. Senate. Those members are voted for. It's our House of Representatives. I did have 19. It was just in the wrong place. So, number 19. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Of course, that being through the suffrage movement and the Civil Rights Act of 1968. My brain. Yeah. During the Civil Rights Act, 19th Amendment was drafted and put into Congress where women were allowed to vote. There's still that argument whether or not women actually wanted the right to vote because the anti-suffragette movement and they didn't want the same responsibilities as men had.
Wait, did you say 1968?
Yeah, it wasn't.
It was 1920.
Oh, 20s.
The 19th Amendment was 1901?
Yeah, it was early.
It was August 18th, 1920.
1920 for the 19th Amendment?
Yes.
So that wasn't the... Wow, I'm completely wrong on that then. See, we are wrong sometimes. I thought the 19th was a part of the Civil Rights Act. No. Okay. So... Yeah, I'm getting them mixed. Civil rights was more of... Well, the 1970s was like sexual revolution, and then anti-segregation, and women entering the workforce, primarily.
That was more in the 50s.
Yeah, I thought that was after World War II.
Yeah. Dive deeper into it. Just so much going on all the time. They all just start bridging together. Feels like I gotta have like
a timeline of when everything happens so you can look at a date and...
Yeah, women got...
like folders on my computer to be like, oh, right there.
Women got workplace rights during the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Yeah, 64, not 68. Yeah. I mean, women were already in the workplace, but I think the civil rights movement had more to do with you can't deny women equal pay and things like that.
Yeah, I want to say women actually started working like back in the late 1800s, like 1890s. Not in droves, but...
Yeah. I believe women always had their place in the workforce. I mean, prostitution is the oldest profession known to man. So, there's always been jobs for women, secretary work, things like that. It's just...
And a lot of them did like the sewing back in the 1800s or the 1900s.
Making clothing and stuff like that. I think it more so had to do with like higher education jobs and things like that. They were primarily denied that unless you were really, really, really intelligent. So that is the 19th. The next is the 24th, I believe. Yes,
23rd.
23rd. Go for it.
Presidential vote for D.C. Section 1.
D.C. gets a right to vote.
The district constituting the seat of government of the United States shall appoint in such manner as Congress may direct a number of electors of president and vice president equal to the whole number of senators, representatives in Congress to which the district would be entitled if it were a state, but in no event more than the least populous state. They shall be in addition to those appointed by the states, but they shall be considered for the purposes of the election of president and vice president to be electors appointed by a state, and they shall meet in the district and perform such duties as provided by the 12th article of amend. Section 2. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation.
Basically, what was happening January 6th. It's the secession of power.
Why did they add a couple more senators? Because that just says Washington, D.C. has its own couple senators. What's the point?
I believe for the longest time, the District of Columbia, they were actually not allowed to have a representative body, but then the population that lived in D.C. was like, hey, we're citizens, but we're not allowed to vote. So that was put in
But
there.
it's just part of a state.
Yeah. But it's like they weren't counted towards it because Capitol Hill and everything, they were supposed to be separated because it's federal government. And federal government's not supposed to have a say in the election, but the constituents that lived there do. So this is like bridging that gap, giving them kind of the ability
Why
to
not
vote.
just add them to... Where's that, Maryland?
No idea. Oh, where is it?
DC?
Maryland, I
Yeah.
believe so, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just one of those things they had to like try to make it fit with not allowing the federal government to interfere with the election, but
Abolish the
still
23rd. We don't need it.
get rid of a bunch of things. Get rid of a bunch of them. That was pretty wordy to, I believe, if I'm correct, to basically state if you live in the District of Columbia, like Capitol Hill area, as a citizen, you still have a representative body. So you yourself have a senator that you can vote for, the mayor of D.C., things like that. 24th, Section 1, the right of the citizens of the United States to
Yeah,
vote.
but what is the 24th?
You know, it just says the 24th on this. I just went to constitutionannouncement.com.
It's the abolition of poll taxes.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it would have covered it right here. The right of citizens of the United States to vote in any primary or other election for president or vice president, for electors for president or vice president, or for senator or representative in Congress shall not be denied or abridged by the United States of any state by reason of failure to pay any poll tax or other tax. Section 2, Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Yeah, so you can't be demanded to pay to vote.
That used to be a thing?
Poll taxes, yeah.
Huh.
The 24th is kind of weird. I wonder... this is something I forgot to look up. I'll have to. I do wonder when the whole you have to be a landowner to vote got kind of annexed from everything, but we might cover that. But I think we're basically just gonna talk about what we think about voting rights here in the States as a whole. You want to shoot 26?
The 26th Amendment, right to vote at age 18. Section 1. The right of citizens of the United States who are 18 years of age or older to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of age. Section 2. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation.
Did you pull most of yours by congress.gov? Are most of your source polls from Congress?
No, I got mine from constitutioncenter.org.
Okay. And I pulled mine from
What was the age
Congress.gov.
before that? Was anyone allowed to vote?
21.
Yeah, I think it was
Oh, it was
21.
21 before that. Okay, so it just lowered the voting.
That's where it was interesting. I think we talked about this last time. The gentleman that was in Vietnam and he spoke in front of Congress and he was like, I was 19 killing people as a man overseas, but when I came home, I couldn't even have a drink of alcohol. So that kind of makes sense. So to quickly run through the 12th Amendment, I hear a lot of people talking about abolishing the Electoral College. We're not a democracy, so we democratically vote our representatives, but as a whole, our country is not a democracy as a whole. So having a system purely based on popular vote for president is just absurd. We can't do that, in my opinion. What about you, Jesse?
Well, what's the point of having a vote anyway, if that's not? Because in the as a whole, our vote just literally doesn't matter if the Electoral College can vote one way when
When the
everyone else
popular
votes
says
one
one
way.
way.
Right. I think the idea behind the Electoral College, though, is that if you're in a district and the representative for that electoral vote votes against you, even though your district, like I said, if your district 99% vote red, but then he says, nah, I'm voting blue, you then have the power to strip them. So I don't know.
But if that was the case, it just seems like it could be abused. They could just
Sure.
keep happening.
But a popular democracy can be abused as well. I think the Electoral College was,
Well, I don't see how.
it tricked people into voting into something that...
They already do that.
Fair point. Fair point.
I see zero reasons to have an Electoral College.
Okay. So you're for abolishing the Electoral College?
Yeah.
Getting rid of it? What about you, Adam?
I mean, I kind of like the popular vote idea. I mean, that's kind of the point of the vote should be whoever gets more votes wins the election.
Like I kind of get it because some states are so big that if you win in one state, that can just decide the entire thing.
Right.
That's the thing that makes the most sense to me with the Electoral College.
I'd have to learn more about the Electoral College. I hear it talked about a lot and some of the things that it does and what it
Well, so
doesn't
like
do.
what Jesse's saying is like basically like Texas, California, New York.
Yeah.
Like if somebody were to like get a majority of those states, like they've already got like a third
Yeah,
of the
they're-
population basically.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of the reason behind the Electoral College is you only get so many electoral votes.
Yeah.
It's not purely populous.
Well, I mean, kind of because it does go by population. Like California's got what 53 electoral votes or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the states with the highest population are
Yeah.
going to have
So
the
I mean,
most electoral
realistically,
votes.
it would
But
just
it's
be
still
about
only,
the same thing as
right. But I think if it's like 100,000 people, it's one electoral. So I think this is the way of saying that the 10 largest states in the United States solely do not get the choice in who's president, because they would determine every single presidential election.
I mean, they already do. And at the same time, if you're voting for red in California, your vote doesn't matter. And if it were a populace, it would matter. So yeah, now that I think about it a little more, I don't think we need the Electoral College. If anything, it makes it so some people's votes don't do anything.
We'd have to go back and see.
Jesse
what
does kind of
popular
make a
votes-
point because if you remember the episode where we went through the maps of like where all the heavy density blue voters were compared to red, like in all the states with the high populations, it was always right where the big cities are, all the blue, so the dense population, which tend to vote more Democrat, and then it's all the more rural areas that are and country areas that are voting red.
Yeah, and a lot of times it wouldn't be that far off. It'd be like 65-35, 60-40, but the big cities are what matters.
I kind of hear what you're saying, but when it comes to the more rural areas, it's very weird how in like New York City, they have basically a 10-mile radius and it has millions and millions of people, which outnumbers the rest of the states. So even though 75% of New York shows up red on a map, it's 3 or 4 cities that make us blue,
Yeah.
and that is by democratic election. So I don't know.
So then, do you think maybe we should have electoral colleges for state votes as well?
maybe by population count?
That's what I mean by like county. Like each county is so many electoral votes.
I don't know. That's a tough one.
I've never thought about
course,
that
I'm
before.
not
So
a-
yeah,
I
that just
think
popped
that's
in my head.
when you break it down. I think that still matters just by population.
To a degree.
Unless a county can have a maximum, because
Or
if,
like
if you
in a-
take whatever county New York City is in, that's the only one you'd have to win.
or a maximum amount of electoral colleges per like state or something. Interesting.
Do they currently have a cap on the max amount of electoral college
No,
votes per
it-
state?
It just goes by per 100,000, I believe,
Okay.
It's I think it's actually more. I think it's actually like
or it might be
for every million.
250. Or, not exactly sure what it is. Also, I just seen 8 Mile for the first time.
You just now watched 8 Mile
just
for the
watched
first
it a
time?
couple
Oh
days ago
my
for the first time
god.
ever.
Oh my god.
It was good.
It was. I liked it. I thought Eminem actually did a pretty good job acting.
Yeah, I'm
Like-
surprised he did. He ever have any other roles in anything? Because
I don't think so, but I mean,
I thought he did fantastic.
he was just kind of acting like himself.
Yeah.
So I mean,
8 Mile. It's just a story about his life, isn't it?
Loosely based on it, yeah.
yeah, but sometimes trying to like act like yourself, you actually act not like yourself, trying to act like
Yeah.
yourself.
Which is weird. I probably put this in wrong. I'll look this up. So that's the electoral college.
breathing in the
I
mic?
can kind of see. Probably me. I have it a fist, but I keep getting closer. Probably.
It's not always necessarily how close the mic is. It's where your location to your nose is, like whether you're talking or if you're just sitting in front of the mic breathing. That's why I always move my head to the left when I'm done.
Okay. On average, a state is awarded 1 electoral vote for every 565,165 people.
Random number, but
Yeah.
so 500,000 essentially.
So basically, the cap to how many electoral votes they have is how big the population can get.
Yes, and the bigger the state, obviously, the bigger the. Because if you have New Jersey, that'll never have more than a couple.
What about Rhode Island?
Or
Rhode Island,
Rhode, yeah,
tiny
Rhode
little
Island.
state.
Interesting. Yeah, we've had such a botched system for so long. But I think if now this is not to deter you from your thought of it, but I believe in 2016 Donald Trump actually lost the popular vote, so we would have had Clinton.
Yeah, so in
That's
that
just
case,
an
thank
aside
God
to
for
it.
the electoral college.
That's just an aside to it. A new system needs to be thought up, possibly, because.
What would that system be?
Oof, I don't think we could ponder on it and try to think of something. I think maybe percentage of population, or I don't know. I used to think when I was younger that our system was a democratic system where president won if he won the popular vote.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
that's what I
just
thought when I
because
was
our
little, too.
schools didn't teach us otherwise.
I think we should just have a dictator. The people can't be trusted to vote.
Most people. I mean, most dictator, I don't know, but
I mean, I think the most fair way to do it is just split the country in two. Have one side ran by a Democrat, one side ran by a Republican.
Germany did it.
Or one side can be like remain like democratic, and the other side can be ran by a dictator. See which side is better. Catch me on the dictator side.
Or split into three and have.
I mean, why would it have to be
a
a
libertarian
dictator,
running.
though? Because democracy, as we've seen democracy run in other countries, it eventually does lead to dictatorship. They vote for one head.
Yeah, so why not just skip the process and get there? Hell yeah, sign me up, dictatorship. I'm just kidding.
There are.
I mean, there had to have been some good dictators in history. Maybe.
Okay, name one.
I don't know many.
Are we considering like monarchs as dictators because they were a single head ruling party?
No.
No?
Well, what is the difference?
Exactly. I think
Because a monarch has total say over everything, and a dictator has total say over everything.
Yeah.
So
But I think one decrees by bloodline, the other one has to do through like legislative power.
Or takes by force.
Yeah. But
yeah,
monarchs did
one
that
has
anyways.
maybe a monarchy has a little bit more invested.
Maybe. Oh, you know what it is? Dictators are voted in, monarchies are bloodline.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really the only
Are
true
all
distinction.
dictators voted in?
I mean,
I think some of
we're
them
made
just-
to believe so, or they take power by
Yeah,
force. But
like
through
voted,
Yeah,
because they kill all
but-
their opposition, then they're the only option left.
but it's through popular movements. Like they're typically backed by a large constituent of the population saying, "Okay, we accept these terms."
That is a worry I do have for the future of America, that we're going to end up heading towards, like you said, some kind of dictatorship. Because obviously I wouldn't want to live under a dictator, because I can't name one good one in history. So
If you ask some tankies, they'll name a couple.
I mean, you might be able to find one. I'm not a history buff, but off the top of my head, I can't name one. And I feel like if there was one good dictator throughout history,
would
we'd
stick out.
probably know his name.
Depending on the people you ask, Che Guevara.
Mm.
I don't believe he was, but there are some people who would argue he was.
Didn't he murder a bunch of people and crash their economy?
He did. He did. He threw gays off of buildings and
He threw gays off buildings.
yes.
Oh, that's what's so ironic when LGBT wear their shirts because he
Yes.
hated them.
Yeah. Well, not
If you throw them off buildings, you hate them.
Yeah, usually you got to have some level of hate for someone to throw them off a building. It's
It's-
not usually something you just do for fun.
so it wasn't really I believe as the quotes go directly from him is he saw them as useful pawns for the communist movement, but if you are gay, you could never be a true communist. And instead of like he
Did
didn't
he ever
give the orders.
Did he
to-
ever explain why somebody who was gay couldn't be a true communist?
because they wouldn't be able to they wouldn't procreate, then furthering the communist ideology. I think that was one of the reasons. But
Well,
One
I mean,
could-
they
one-
still could.
Yeah, because one could easily say that an occasional homosexual person isn't going to collapse a population.
yeah, for sure. But I don't know the full thing behind it. I just remember reading some of his quotes a couple of months back. Another thing is he didn't sign law saying, "Hey, we have to kill gay people." It's that Cuba is Che Guevara Cuba no. That was Castro. Venezuela. I believe it was
I think
Venezuela.
it was Venezuela.
Che Guevara, he didn't. So as the, like most parts of the world, homosexuality was kind of seen as a sin, and he didn't order like homosexuals to be caught, put in slave
I know
camps.
it was Cuba.
Cuba, okay. So he didn't order it, but he didn't stop it from happening. That kind of a thing, you know, where he just turned a blind eye to what police forces and things were doing. So it wasn't directly his fault, but he didn't stop it.
Basically okay with it.
Yeah, he was like, well, if it happens, it happens. So that covers, what was that? That was the 17th. We just did the 15th. Oh, the 15th, obviously it's good if like minority peoples, if you're a U.S. citizen, you have the right to vote. That would be ridiculous if we said because of your skin color you can't vote.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant.
That's dumb.
When did slavery get abolished?
18.
It was 1860s, right? So right after it got abolished, they did that. I'm assuming.
1869, 1870 was the ratification of the 15th.
Yeah, so December 6, 1865, the
So
13th Amendment abolished
years.
slavery.
Yeah,
in
because
the
I was
United
wondering if
States.
slavery was legal at the same time they would be able to vote. But
Actually, won't the 13th be covered in our next episode?
Which, the 18th? Yeah, I believe so.
The 13th,
what's
13th, yeah.
What's the 13th?
the abolishment of slavery.
Oh,
'Cause I know we haven't covered that one yet.
Yeah. And I do believe that there were actually some instances where even if you were a U.S. citizen, a black U.S. citizen, and you owned property, you did still have a right to vote. But it's one of those things where
that didn't happen too often.
You had to basically be a wealthy African American
Yeah.
to have the right to vote.
you had to basically buy
Yeah.
your vote.
Yeah, I don't care if you're an alien from a different planet. If you've got your green card, you're in America here legally. Yeah, you should be able to vote as an American.
Ooh,
Yeah.
interesting. I
If
don't
they
know how
migrated to the planet legally, yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know
they
how I
should be able
feel
to vote.
about that. I don't know. Ooh, I might be xenophobic then. I don't know how I feel about
Well,
that.
you did just say like anybody that moves to America and becomes an American citizen should be able to have the right to vote. Shouldn't that include extraterrestrials if they move to the planet?
Ooh, I might actually be racist towards other races, like literal races.
Are you just scared of extraterrestrials because we humanize them and we try to basically put human traits on them and think they would do to us what humans would do to each other?
Probably.
I think-
That's a lot of Hollywood for sure.
Yeah, I think
Would they care about voting?
probably not.
Hmm.
If they're extraterrestrial,
Our politics are probably so primitive to them.
So are we saying like extraterrestrials were to come to the planet today?
Yeah, even if they looked just like us but became American
Then-
citizens. If you're an American, you should be able to vote.
I don't think they would care too much about American politics because
Probably not.
they're already extraterrestrial beings. They'd be like,
Probably not.
You're still voting for representatives?
Yeah. However, I still think if they became American citizens, they deserve the right to vote, even though they probably wouldn't.
I mean, sure.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be equal, right? Yeah. I know there's probably a lot of people that would be like, hell no. And it's like, it's in our Constitution, man. You either believe in it or you don't.
Maybe they'll have to pass something, even if it would never come up, that you have to be born on planet Earth.
Ooh. So then it would just be like it is now with,
As long as you're an American citizen,
yeah.
parentheses, born on Earth,
Yeah,
Yeah. So
you
if
can vote.
little caveat in there.
you and your alien wife come to America, you're on like a work visa. It would be just like it is now. You get pregnant in America, you give birth in America, you're an American citizen. So, interesting. Aliens, come help us solve this problem. We need it. Refresh the 17th. What was 17th? So we can kind of cover that a little bit.
Popular election of senators.
Just checks and balances in our government. It's kind of important. Yeah. I don't see a problem with the Senate.
What does the Senate do exactly? They're the ones that write up
I know
laws and propose them?
specifically their job. Senate hears, I think Senate is what actually covers like the congressional hearings. They hear cases that have to do with special cases when I don't know if interrogating, but questioning like Dr. Fauci and Mark Zuckerberg. What does the U.S. Senate do? Their constitutional power includes proposing legislation, drafting or amending bills, filibuster, delay or block legislation via prolonged debate, oversight of the federal budget, and the executive branch by approving or rejecting presidential appointees or agencies. So,
Okay, they're the ones that vote on bills that are proposed.
Yeah, so
and amendments.
like Joe Biden, his 1994 crime bill, he was still in the Senate. He proposed the bill. The Senate voted on the bill. Once they voted and it passed the Senate, they sent it to Congress. Congress votes on the bill. It passes Congress. Then it goes to the White House desk. Yeah. So 3 checks of bills. Yeah. I think it can go the other way, too. I think Congress can make, like, not present bills, but make suggestions as to what moves forward. Yeah. So that's Senate. Yeah, makes sense. The 19th, the big one, I believe personally needs to be amended in some way.
Amended how?
I think there are actually discussions right now that women may actually be included into requirements for civil service. But as it stands, how men are required to sign up for civil service in order to vote, I believe the same needs to be done for women, or civil service requirement needs to be excluded altogether. It needs to be equal.
What covers that? Like what amendment covers the having to be?
I think that's just Federalist Papers.
Because I've heard that, but I've never.
Why do men have to selective?
That keyboard's loud as fuck.
I know. Why do men have to do selective service? What is selective service registration? Is a way our government keeps a list of names of men which to draw in case of a national emergency, required rapid expansion of the armed forces. By registering all young men, selective service ensures that a future draft will be fair and equitable. What happens if you say no?
Yeah, because I never signed up for it.
But
I was still able to vote.
You're automatically put in it.
I thought they can't do that after the 90s, 80s or 90s.
Really? I thought in order for like your vote to count, you do still have to sign up for selective service. It's like
I didn't sign up and I voted.
Do they automatically just sign you up for that?
That is very interesting. Let's find out.
Yeah, I could have swore after the late 80s or early 90s.
You don't have the loud keyboard. Do you want to? And then I'm not sure what else to ask. What law determines men to sign for selective?
No, you are not automatically signed up for selective service when you turn 18, but nearly all male U.S. citizens and male immigrants between the ages of 18 and 25 are required to register within 30 days of their 18th birthday. Late registrations are accepted until a man turns 26, but failure to register is a felony. If you don't register and can't prove you're exempt, you could be referred to the Department of Justice for investigation and prosecution.
Right.
Why wouldn't it just be assumed no if you don't submit it and say yes? That just seems ridiculous.
What?
So it says if you don't sign up, either yes or no, that you can be federally charged. If you don't sign up, why wouldn't it just automatically no?
I still don't think I understand what you mean by no. Like,
they just, instead of prosecuting you for not putting in a paper saying whether or not you want to be drafted, just if you don't send one in, just have you marked as no.
Oh, because I don't think we have the right to say no.
I said no.
Yeah, but if a draft were declared, something happens and a draft is declared today, even if you didn't sign up, the U.S. government, I believe they did it even for Vietnam. They can pull your name.
What's the max age for drafting? 25 or 26?
I believe it's 35.
Let's go to Google because I have no idea because I actually
Because
I
the
joined,
draft is no longer in
so-
place. They can't do that.
I believe they can. In national emergencies,
Not unless
when
they,
recruitment levels are
because
so
they
low.
did something. They passed something back in the 80s that abolished the draft.
The age limit for U.S. military draft, also known as the Selective Service System, is 25 years old. Men between the ages of 18 and 25 are U.S. citizens or male immigrants living in the country. Oh, we already learned that about requiring to register. Yeah, so have y'all noticed this AI overview sometimes on Google sucks?
Yeah, and the one on Facebook has been weird too.
Yeah,
So-
because this is telling me here that there is no upper limit. Throughout U.S. history, there have been various ceilings of those required to register and those who are actually drafted. The Selective Training and Service Act of 1940 required men ages 18 to 64 to register, yet 8 years later, the range was 19 to 26.
After the 19, if I'm remembering correctly, the 19 to 26, that's the first pool that they pull from. After that, they will start pulling older. So,
So what I see here, it says the last draft was 1973. There hasn't been any enacted since then. If there was, Congress and President would have to authorize one.
Exactly.
Yeah, like if things got desperate, they would obviously like up it up to 40, 45, 50 if needed. Like if say America was just getting murked in whatever conflict they were in and they got desperate to bring in more soldiers, they would take whoever.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. From all of my knowledge that I remember growing up is that we do still have a draft. If things get bad enough, if things were to happen, I believe
Yeah, so it
even
seems-
if you don't selectively sign up, you can still be drafted. They will just send you a letter saying, we require your service.
It seems
if you say
the-
no, then they can come after you.
It seems the consensus here seems to be 25 years of age is the
Is-
oldest they can draft you currently. If there were to be a conflict where they needed to
Things
draft
would have
people.
to be insane if they took from a pool of above that age. Because
Yeah,
we have
it
so
would-
many able-bodied people at that age that,
Yeah.
I mean, millions and millions.
But I think there would be
Millions and millions.
there would be plenty of people that try to flee. You know, right now, how many 19 to 25-year-old boys do you think are going to be willing to fight?
All of them.
Not a,
We got a country full of patriots.
I mean,
I was just I'm just kidding
real low
about that
percentage,
because
but
there seems to be a lot of people in younger generations that have more hate for America than appreciation for America.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But I'm just
And
at-
I can understand frustrations with America, but
to hate
to
is-
hate is a little bit
They've been
far.
they've been taught
Their
that
minds
we
have
are
been manipulated.
we are just a colonizer country empire that needs to fall. But the example of most recently that I'm thinking of is Ukraine has had to draft their men, and they are now pulling from like 50 and 60-year-old men because things are just not going well.
well, they're also their population's
for sure,
way
for
lower.
sure. But if there was a World War III scenario and the U.S. Army needs to conscript like 3 million, let's just say 3 million
Would you
soldiers,
cut your own foot off if it meant not going to war?
I would, no. I
What
would,
about just a toe?
no,
Would you do a toe?
I would take my son's place. If he was at that age, if something were to happen and
Would you shave your face and show up with a smile like you were a 19-year-old kid and be like, "Hey, I'm little Johnny Russell here to go to war"?
Absolutely. I would happily storm a beach to save my son's life. Like if he was that age and he got the letter, I'm going.
What if you didn't have a kid? Would you willingly go, or would you do something in order to get out of it?
I don't want America to fall, so I probably would go.
I mean,
I already did my time.
Yeah.
I'll fight any war that comes to my doorstep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
fair.
And
Yep.
that's basically what would have to happen. Like, it'd be a Pearl Harbor scenario, and then the absolute threat of nuclear annihilation, and then
That's
I don't,
where
I
you
don't
wonder.
got much going for me. So
That's-
if I throw a body at a problem, I'll throw my body at a problem.
So that's where you wonder if certain communities would actually like come together and like form well organized militias if we did get into a world war where another country was trying to come here and fight on our own country, on our own soil. I would hope so. I would hope people could put their differences aside in a
Yeah, I
scenario
think
like
they're-
that
I
and
think
come
they're
together and work together as a team to keep one another safe and to protect the neighborhood.
I mean, it happened
the
at Pearl
community.
Harbor, and then it happened again 9/11. People got very patriotic very quickly. I don't know if the same thing would happen if
9/11 was an inside job.
yeah, it probably was. And that's one of the reasons
that?
why trust in our government is
something.
that's why trust in our government is so small today. But if another country were to launch like a full-scale attack on the United States soil, you would see patriotic communities start training in a heartbeat. But I also see that as kind of a problem because young patriotic men would be the first ones to go serve, where the soy boys would be like, I'm not doing anything.
No, just get them jacked up on meth like the Nazis did, and maybe they'll
Fuck
be ready
yeah.
to fight.
Meth chocolate bars. Let's go. Meth chocolate.
I do not condone drugs, just so YouTube knows that. It's
Nazis
just,
did, but
it's
we don't.
just a joke.
Yeah, they're all bad, and we've never done them.
Never.
So I believe I don't even really understand why the 19th exists. I believe as a country, we kind of understand that they are people and they deserve the right to vote as well. They have an innate right to have a voice in what's happening in their communities. I don't understand why the 19th is a necessity. But if it is, it needs to be equal between the sexes. If they're not required to do some kind of civil service, men should not be required either, especially with
Here's a
the
good question, though.
culture that America has.
How comfortable would you be sending our women to a war zone?
Oh, I wouldn't send them to combat roles. Not at all. Not at all. We would do like what we did in World War II. They would work factory jobs, making ammunition and stuff.
Wasn't that all voluntary
It was.
in World War II? So why shouldn't we keep that voluntary system? I think there's women that would still want to step up and help with administrative shit here.
Maybe. I think if there are laws and documents saying that we are required as men, then it should be equal. There should be documents saying that they are as well required to give the same sacrifice. Not their life, of course. I would never say women if
don't know. I
America
guess
was going to fall,
I
if
have
we
a-
didn't send women, let America fall.
I have a
the women
slightly, I guess, different view on that. I don't know. I don't think women should be drafted into wars.
Not as soldiers, of course. Yeah.
Not as anything. That's my take on it.
Yeah.
I don't.
Administrative roles.
If they want to
medics, triage.
if they want to volunteer to help, sure. But I don't know. I've got more, I guess, what you'd call traditional kind of views on a woman's role in society. You know, I'll probably take a lot of heat for saying it, but it's the age of being a boss bitch, right? The most boss bitch move you can do is raise your family. Like, that's
I think all three of us would agree on.
yeah, I don't think there's anything more boss bitch than that. So, yeah, and I'll probably catch some heat for saying that, but you know, I'm not trying to degrade them or look down on them anyway. A man can't raise a child the same way a woman can, and you know, I think both are needed there. But the nurturing of a mother is, I feel like, something a father just can't give. So I think that role as a mother is one of the most important things in society.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my view on it would be don't send them overseas
For
unless they were voluntary. And if you have children, then you
See,
couldn't be
even-
selected.
Even voluntary, I wouldn't be comfortable sending women to a war zone. Just so much can happen. to them.
Non-combat roles.
Oh,
It's like-
non-combat.
administrative
yeah,
and
yeah.
things.
Yeah, being
If anything,
nurses
if anything, you got to be like the Japanese emperor that went and told his people basically go forth and multiply because they weren't reproducing enough. You know, at that point, maybe the president.
Just recently.
Yeah, maybe the president of America. If we're in a long-standing war, hey, y'all got to get busy and do your best to start pumping out some more men. Let's go.
I actually do think, I don't know if this was a troll, I'm about to find out. I think Japan
love a good
just
troll.
opened its doors and offering money to foreigners to come breed. Japan's new
God, that's scary for
Breeding
Japan. Would you really want someone like me going over there and breeding a bunch of little babies? That's terrifying.
I mean, couldn't they just buy sperm from a sperm bank?
Yeah, but then it's a single mother.
It's also
wouldn't
more-
They just raise them in a lab.
Well, it's also more expensive to do the whole sperm donor process than it is to just, do the natural thing.
Yeah, I guess. But you would think they would just have. Well, maybe China would do that, not Japan. Just have like facilities where they have pods of women and.
Sounds terrifying. Sounds like something in a very dystopian future, but a future that might not possibly be too awfully far away.
To combat declining birth rates, Japan to begin offering breeding visas to foreigners.
Passport, bro. The passport
Opposite
bros
of
are
the
going to be
passport, bro.
Yeah, but the passport bros are going to be happy about that because now they can just go over there and just breed.
Yeah, and a lot of weebs are about to have their dreams come true.
Yeah.
What is a weeb? I don't think I've heard that term.
Typically an American that is fascinated with Japanese culture, and they'll have all like the anime shirts on and the hats, and they'll carry on swords.
Okay, I've seen those people
Oh,
you're
yeah.
talking about. I
Yeah.
just never knew there was a term
It's a
for it.
derogatory
So
term.
they call
calling
them
somebody
weebs.
Yeah.
Weeb. Yep.
Okay. Learn something new every day, huh?
So do either of you? So it sounds like you don't agree to forcing like some kind of selective service for women. What about taking the requirement away from men?
Yeah, I don't think it should be in place at all.
Yeah, I could kind of agree with that because I did say earlier in the episode, so I'm going to stand by it. You know, if you're an American citizen that's an adult, you should have the right to vote on who's making laws that are going to govern and dictate your life. So I think maybe I would agree with, not having people sign up. I get the idea of, drafting people to fight a war to defend the country, but at the same time, it's like people ultimately should have a choice if they want to go fight a war against a bunch of strangers and think that those strangers are the enemy because we were told that, hey, these people are the enemy, we have to go kill them. So it's either your life or theirs. Most people don't want to be in that situation.
Yeah, I think if I lived back in the 50s or 60s, my view would be a little different. But with the top,
Because it
with
was
the-
easy to indoctrinate people into being so patriotic.
We have the technology now to where we don't really need to put too many people on ground somewhere. We can do everything remotely.
Drones, missiles,
Yeah,
things like
yeah.
that.
Which is
But
kind of
the same-
terrifying at the same time.
The same opposite. They have the same technology, so
Yeah, we don't need people.
it's warfare is very strange nowadays.
It is.
But I just trust in governments is like at an all-time low with all of the lies that have been exposed.
What is government approval rating right now? It's like 30%, ain't it?
It's
25, 30%.
it's about ready to fall.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's not good.
You got people that just want the whole system to burn down and crash, and
so
it's
that
like
they
I get,
can rebuild from the ashes.
yeah, I get the idea of wanting it to crash and burn because it's so corrupt at the moment, but
Yeah, would it
would
be easier
would
to build completely new or just
Exact-
to fix what we have?
exactly. And who's to say if we did crash and burn it, it wouldn't end up going right back to a same kind of system where all the power and money is at the top while everybody else is just getting the scraps and barely getting by.
Or the United States just completely falls and we're not a country anymore.
And then we become the United States of China.
Yeah.
I don't even think it would be called the United States anymore. But I think we take examples of previous republics
They should just call it New China if they do. New China. It's got a ring to it.
like Greeks and Rome, when their republics started falling and declining, it still had a semblance because the system was still working, but it had to be adjusted to work for them. So just like in Rome, people were elected to office. There were senators who they weren't a representative, where they weren't elected by the peoples, but certain families, when you owned property or you were chosen by the emperor, but then it just devolved into chaos where a dictator, where the word comes from, took office and just took it by force, and it became a military state, which we're basically becoming. And now we're starting to see the stages where the elites are wrestling each other for power, and it's becoming so chaotic. So even if America as it is were to fall, it would still be called America. It would have a semblance of it, but it'd be a shell of what it is. And I believe even now we're a shell of what we used to be. But whenever we've seen a government completely overthrown, it crashes in decades, you know. What's the longest one to ever survive? The Soviet Union. And that was 50 years, you know. The USSR.
Not even a century.
Yeah, the USSR survived 50 years before it then collapsed again under its own economy because the ruble was worth literally nothing. So, who knows? We can either try to fix the problem or just let it crumble.
I think we should try to do our best to fix it before letting it crumble.
Yeah, I don't think fixing it would be that hard. Look at 2016 to 2020. The country was fantastic.
Yeah.
And that just took a couple years. Before that,
Minus all the fucking political issues and bullshit that the media stirred up, but
Yeah.
the way the country was running seemed like a better oiled machine than it currently is.
But isn't it weird how things were going so well, but they still want it to fall? I get it, but I don't get it. Like, I know the reasons why they want it to fall, because they want to be in those positions of power when it falls.
Yeah,
But why?
no sane person
Yeah.
would.
You
want
can
that.
still have power and luxuries, but
People are
be
greedy.
about the country itself. You don't have to be like, well, I want to be on the side that I think's going to win, aka China and Russia and communism. I don't see how that's a good plan. People want to believe what they want to believe.
Everyone thinks they can always do it better.
Yeah, grass is always greener kind of thing. Yeah. Oh, we can make the system
But it would be
better.
green if you just watered your own.
Wise wisdom from Jesse.
I've seen that on Facebook.
Oh, you bastard. You should have just claimed it.
So without, so your only objection to the 19th Amendment was
The
that
lack
they
of
don't,
equality.
the lack that they don't have to register for selective service.
It's more the other way that men are required, but if we're going to make it equal, that's like, that's my deal. Like one or the other. Either you
Yeah, the
also have to do
compromise.
some kind of selective. It doesn't even have to be military. Like women could be mail carriers or something. You know, that's a selective service. That's why I'm actually kind of in favor of service equals citizenship. Like, I don't believe if you don't do some kind of service, then maybe you shouldn't have the right to vote. That would kind of thin out the herd a little bit.
I mean, that would destroy small business, I think, if you have a business and then you're like, you can't be a citizen unless you uproot your business and do something else for years.
Owning a small business, I think, could be considered a civil service because
Well, if that was the case, then anybody can just have a small business on the internet. And then that would just be a loophole where no one would have to do it.
a net tax income. So
Anybody could just set that up and just be like, I sell balls of yarn on eBay.
Yeah, but you have to be a net tax positive.
Yeah.
You're most people aren't going to be able to do that. Sure, I could
They
register
could
an
just
LLC, but can you? Because the IRS,
absolutely.
the IRS will definitely be like, "Hey, you say you've earned money, but you haven't paid us taxes in 3 years."
You just do that. You say you do one thing, and then you sell drugs on the side, and then you just There'd be way.
Well, yeah, there's no perfect system. You very quickly found a loophole for it.
Yeah,
sure.
Which means if some random dude found a loophole in 12 seconds, they just can't be done.
I think it still could. There would just have to be some kind of grandfathering clause for it.
Yeah, maybe you need brick and mortar if you have a physical location. No, an online business wouldn't count.
Yeah, online businesses wouldn't count. Registered LLCs, you have to be a net tax not beneficiary, but a net tax payer. You can't get any taxes back at the end of the year, that kind of thing. Brick and mortar. If you've already been voting for 20 years, you're kind of grandfathered in, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, okay. If you were already a citizen, then you're a citizen. Yeah. But if you were to become one, if you're only 15, then once you hit 18, then...
And then we could expand civil service to so many things. You could be a infrastructure worker for a year. You could be a construction worker.
Yeah, maybe it's something...
a mail carrier, or you could help clean up the oceans. You could simply sign up for National Guard work.
Or instead of doing going to college right out of high school, then you do like 2 years of some kind of service like that. Yep. Then you can choose to go to college.
Even humanitarian aid. You can do humanitarian aid. That's a civil service.
Something like that could definitely work.
Yeah. And still, so many people would be like, I don't want to do it. All right, cool. You get no say in what happens then. You don't want to be a benefit. And a lot of people would
just do that anyway because a lot of people just don't care about voting.
Yeah.
I mean, what is our voting turnout? Less than... It's 28%, 31%.
Not sure.
It's definitely less than 50. I think the all-time high was like 45. Or no. Might have been 50.
I thought this last election was the highest voter turnout yet.
Sure was. Most votes ever.
Most votes, but by percentage.
It's because Joe Biden was running. How could you not expect people to flock out in droves to vote for him?
The elections of 2018, 2020, 2022 were three of the highest turnouts U.S. elections. About 2/3, 66% of the voting eligible population turned out for the 2020 presidential election.
2/3, wow.
Yeah. Highest rate for any national election since 1900. The 2018 election, that was the midterms, 49% had the highest rate for midterms. Even the 2020 midterms, 46%. So it's steadily increasing.
Yeah.
But I think we know 2020 was mail-in ballots.
Yeah.
Like it was so easy. You literally just called a phone number, said I want a mail-in ballot, and then you just fill it out and send it back. That's it.
Yeah,
you didn't have to go stand in a line somewhere. So
call 1-800-VOTE to vote today.
Vote Joe.
Dead people were voting. People were voting without even voting.
Yeah.
People were voting 12 times.
All the good stuff.
Dogs were voting.
Please press 1 to vote for Joe Biden. Or press 2 to vote for Donald Trump.
No, it's just press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 for Biden. Then Donald Trump is just 8.
Or he's the pound sign.
Yeah. Some symbol that doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stick to the requirements for civil service, and then we just widen the definition of civil service.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah,
if
that
you're
seems good.
if you're being a net positive for the country.
So what about being a nurse? Could that be like civil service?
Yeah, you're helping the country.
Yeah, if you're in the healthcare field. Yeah.
Yeah, healthcare provider for sure. That would be a civil service because you're. But then I think civil service would have to change because
the definition
police
of it would have to change.
Yeah, because police officers are civil servants, and in the course of a civil servant's duties, we're allowed to record them. Though I'm not too sure if you're allowed to just walk up to a nurse and like invade their privacy like that because they're still a sovereign citizen or a private citizen. So there would have to be maybe a different term, some way we define it. But civil service in general, a construction worker for a couple of years, National Guardsman, Coast Guard, anything like that. Yeah, if you're a net benefit to the country, your skin is in the game, so you have a right.
Yeah.
If you're just along for the ride and you don't care either way, cool. You even if you want to, you've made your choice. You don't want to be a part of it, so you don't get a say. 24, right of citizens of the United States vote in a primary or other election for president or vice president. Self-explanatory, right? Yeah. But abolish the 26th. I don't know. I personally believe if you're under the age of 25, you should not be allowed to vote.
Wait, we went from the 19th to the 26th?
19th was the women's right to vote. 24th was just citizens' rights to vote for the president and vice president. So then the 26th is the last one, right?
Well, yeah, the 24th to the abolition of poll taxes. Yeah, I don't think anybody should ever be charged to vote.
No, that's
Yeah.
that's
Seems-
crazy.
it just seems silly.
That would just mean poor people can't vote.
Yeah, and that was one of the main arguments was like
Yeah.
people who are impoverished.
But what's
wouldn't
funnier
have
than
to-
24?
What's funnier than 24?
You guys don't get it. SpongeBob, man.
What, 25?
25.
Is that a Patrick joke?
No,
Sounds like a
SpongeBob said it. They were in boating
That
school.
sounds like a Patrick
and he
joke.
was like, "Psst, Patrick, it's funnier than 24.
So, right to vote at age 18, though. I know you've got some opinions on that.
25.
Okay, so here's my my pushback on that. If you're going to go with the age of 25 as the right to vote, then you can't join the military until you're 25. You can't
Exactly.
smoke cigarettes until you're 25. You
Exactly.
can't drink alcohol until you're 25.
Exactly.
You can't do any of that until you're 25.
Exactly.
Should you be able to have children before 25?
That's where I don't have an answer for.
Because if you're going to make being an adult 25, I feel like you'd have to make the age of consent, which is an adult thing, the age of 25.
We would just have to categorize certain things. It is healthier for humans to do certain things at a younger age. Starting a family is probably one of the healthier things. I don't know. There's so many stories.
My thing is, if
of-
you're going to decide what an adult is, it needs to be like kind of across the board. Like there should.
holistically,
I understand the brain isn't fully developed until we're 25.
right? I don't know. I just think I remember when I was 18.
Oh, I definitely couldn't make an informed decision when I was 18. Like I definitely agree
I mean, I
with
say
you
put
that
it back
there's.
to 21. 21
Yeah.
for everything.
Or
I don't even know if I could have made a good informed decision when I was 21.
Well, it's because our
I
school
never,
system is
I never
garbage.
even, I never even like,
There's too many problems. The
I never
United
even
States
started
has.
looking into like anything politics until the 2016 election.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was the first election where I was actually able to make what I believed was an informed vote.
yeah,
Because before that, when I was young, I didn't care. I didn't.
I don't
They,
think
they
any
didn't.
of us really
They
did.
didn't want us to care.
Yeah.
Like 21 should be an age to where that's old enough to where anybody should be able to make a good decision. It's just we aren't taught well enough because our school system is corrupt.
But I think 21 is kind of maybe it should just be 20. But so here's what I believe I could agree on. Everything could be 18. Smoking, drinking could be 18. Joining the military, 18. Getting married, having children, 18. Across the board. If culture in America changed.
Sure.
If our education system wasn't what it was, it could be 18. If kids were being taught by their parents about actually important things in life, responsibility, discipline, how to, I don't know, file your taxes.
So in a perfect society, but in a
Yeah,
broken society, 21.
Yeah.
I think 21.
I mean, not even really perfect, but in a society that has
It would have to be near perfect.
standards.
Yeah.
Higher standards than what we have.
My thing is, if you can go out into the world as an adult at the age of 18 and the government is making decisions that affect your life as an 18-year-old adult, then I think you should definitely have the right to vote for who's making those policies. Now, it'd be different if it was a normal thing in our culture to not even move out of the house until you were 25. Or if it was normal for everyone to have kids between 25 and 30, although that is kind of a late jump and we don't need to collapse a population.
25 is risky.
I mean, we're already facing population collapse, so.
As for moving out, I have actually fairly recently, probably the last year, I have started moving towards generational housing. Families as a whole should live together. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
Or
the-
buy a
grandmother-
property and build multiple houses on it. And,
Yeah.
you
That's
know,
what I wanted
yeah.
to do.
families
once-
Yeah.
should have a community inside the home and then a greater community outside of the home.
Yep.
Yeah,
This
once I
whole
make-
thing where you have 4 kids and they all move out and they all pay their own mortgages and they all have their own cars.
It's a scam.
That is
It's a scam.
absolute scam.
Yeah.
That is one of the failures of capitalism,
Yep.
for sure.
Because
I
there's
agree.
there's other cultures where you basically live at home with mom and dad until you get married, and then you move out and go move in with your wife.
Sometimes even when you're married,
Yeah.
your wife moves in with your family.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's your wife, your mom, your sister, your dad, your grandfather, all raising your kid, so they get to see all those wide experiences.
That's also ties into the idea of, it takes a village.
Yeah. Culture in America, and I will absolutely secede this point because of capitalism, is on the brink.
Yeah, I don't know if America is the most family-oriented culture.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
In the 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe. 50s for sure. I think there was a big push for like being a family structure and a
Yeah.
family unit, but that's also where the whole breaking of the generational home thing came from. As soon as you got married, you got your own house, you had a kid, you had a job, you had a car, and then that continued on from there, which was kind of bad.
Yeah, it would be real nice to have a home that you can just keep passing down from generation to generation.
Yeah. Like these old Victorian homes. And it's so sad what has happened to these Victorian homes. You now have these
Dude,
giant
there's-
castles, but they have 15 apartments in them.
Yeah.
Like that used to house a family of 20 people. One family.
Dude, there's some beautiful houses in this area too that it's like, man,
Not
if they just
anymore.
put a little bit of work back into these places, they would be such beautiful houses, and they're crap because the slumlords have just let them go.
Because the property tax on them and the maintenance, you had to split them up into multiple units. I don't know if refurbishing an old house like that would be better or just somehow recovering the schematics for it and then building a whole fresh Victorian style home.
Yeah, because some of them are 170 years old.
And just modernize it. Modern Victorian would probably be absolutely gorgeous. So, yeah, we're kind of torn between 26. I lean more towards 25 because it seems what we consider adults in our country are staying infantile. Like,
I mean, I know people in their 40s that still act like teenagers on Facebook and still act infantile, so.
that's true. That's true.
I don't know. I just think like kind of like that gentleman we talked about on the last episode who went to Vietnam but couldn't come home and vote. Like to me, that's bullshit. You can't vote on the people who are sending you to war. If they're gonna send you to war at 18, they should let you vote.
Yeah. If you vote, which is kind of weird because we haven't voted to go to war since Vietnam, if you as a congressional member vote for us to go to war, your kids are the first ones to go. That way you actually...
That would definitely make them rethink their vote.
Yeah, absolutely. That way you'd be like, is this worth it?
Yeah, most
of the time it's not.
There was a wise band that asked the question, why do they always send the poor? System of
Society.
System of a Down.
Yeah.
Dregs of society. Do you see any kind of do you agree to any kind of restrictions on voting?
Ultimately, I believe that if you're an American citizen, you're an adult American citizen over 18, you should be able to vote on who's making laws for your life. However, there's a small part of me that's like, man, some people should have to take some form of IQ test or
That's
some
where I'm
kind
at.
of civil service exam or something to let us know that they will be a competent
You
voter.
have to be deemed mentally sufficient in order to.
Mm-hmm.
Just a basic cognitive test.
Because if your IQ's 50, I mean,
Or even something as simple as it could be state to state. Be like, who are your state's representatives? If you can't answer who your state reps are, then
well, that's something you can just Google beforehand.
yeah. But that also
Yeah, but what
means
if you
that
don't
were
know
smart enough
what
to
if you don't
Google
know
it.
what questions you're going to get? What
I'm
if they
sure
just-
people would.
What if they just bring in
mention
5 random questions to each person and the question's different each time? Who are your state representatives?
it? Psh, I don't know.
Yep, you can't
Exactly.
vote. Who are your state
But
representatives?
if it was a
Jesse?
requirement, it would.
I actually do know.
Oh,
It's John
Smith.
Bailey.
Okay. Oh, hold up. Actually,
I have no idea.
oh,
John
I was-
Bailey? That actually that sounded pretty good though. I'm not gonna lie. That
was
sounded
gonna-
like
I
he
was
could
gonna
be a
say-
politician.
Yeah, I was gonna say a couple names and be like, well, you don't know him, so you can't call me.
Yeah,
William.
I don't know our state's representatives. So the 3 of us are fucked. We can't vote.
but here's the thing: because it's not a requirement,
we don't care.
do it.
If it was, we would.
If
know.
it became a law where you knew that in order to vote you had to take some kind of cognitive test or at least be able to determine who was like your state representatives, that would get the people that don't care out of the way. So you would be proving that you do want to be a part of the system by at least having the knowledge.
So if we're gonna do the
It's-
cognitive tests to vote, then you should definitely have to take cognitive tests to be sitting president.
Yes, I 100% agree.
You should have to know where the fuck you are right now to be president of the country.
Yes.
I mean, Donald Trump took him.
Okay, so
Kinda
quick
forced them to.
quick
Oh,
side
he
topic.
aced them all too.
Oh, yeah.
Quick side topic. I want to see if you guys noticed it throughout the debate. Biden seemed sharper in the beginning, and it was like after the first commercial, you could start to see a decline even more and more in his, like, the way he was rambling, stumbling over his words, stuttering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
For the
He-
first
I don't know.
maybe
I felt that from the beginning.
for the first
Well-
30 minutes, he didn't really slur. He didn't. He didn't say any weird.
I felt like
things.
it
He was all
slowly-
coked up.
If you go back and watch the debate, I feel like it slowly starts to get worse and worse as the debate gets longer.
Yeah, because I was shocked in the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, he's
Yeah.
still stupid, but he's
I
not
don't know
doing
if I
as
could
terrible
watch
as
it
I
a
thought.
4th time. This would be my 4th time watching it.
I don't know.
But-
I don't know who won the debate, but I feel like America lost with that debate. I thought it was pretty awful.
We definitely got to talk about what you maybe watch it again and take some notes.
Yeah,
and
I'll
you can
actually
come back
take
with
I'll
us
actually
for it.
take the notes because there was so Erica was watching something on her laptop while I was watching it, and we were kind of like talking back and forth too. So, but there was like 3 separate times where Trump was asked a question, And he never answered the question, which I'm not surprised. Normal politicians do the same thing. They love dancing around questions and avoiding answering it directly. I'm not sticking up for Biden either, because there was times Biden didn't answer questions. I felt like the most entertaining part or the best part of the whole debate was when they got arguing golf. I was like, this is both hilarious it's hilarious kind of way, and it's also hilarious in a scary kind of way, because it's like, damn, these are the two potential leaders for the free world, and they're up here in a debate arguing about golf. But then the humor side of me is like, this is still fucking great. Yeah. This is ridiculous. It's great.
Yeah, I busted out laughing.
So this was a format that has like never been done before, as far as I know. There's never been where they weren't able to like go back and forth with each other, jab back, things like that, where microphones were getting cut off. It was very difficult. The first time I watched it, it was very difficult. As soon as Biden started speaking, I felt so bad. I was like, this is clearly elder abuse.
Oh, I don't care. He's evil.
I think he was evil. I think now he just has no idea.
Is.
I don't know anymore. He's
just happy to be there, man.
It's just such elder abuse. And you could tell he was kind of sick. His voice was just...
Yeah.
Or maybe now he is in the part of, like, physical decline where there is nothing left. He's trying so hard. And some of the looks he was giving, he was gone.
Jesse does that pretty good.
With Trump, were at the times where he was trying, instead of answering the question, going back to rebuttal what Joe had said?
Yes, to defend his character against what Biden was saying several times. Which I'm not surprised. I know Trump's got a big ego and it's fragile.
A lot of commenters did say that he should have just answered the question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. That's what I'm watching a debate for. I want to know your answers to the questions so I can make an informed decision on who I'm going to vote for. And right now, in good conscience, I feel like I can't vote for either of those men. Even though I think America ran smoother under Trump, I just feel like after watching that debate, I'd feel bad consciously about voting for either of them. I was not impressed with my choices.
I don't know. I've just seen such an improvement in Trump over the years. Like, he was this schoolyard bully back in 2016 when he started, and then he just gained some popularity, started saying some shocking things. Then 2020, he calmed down a little bit. He was more precise with a lot of things, but he was still Trump jabbing. And then the last couple of interviews he's had, he's been very concise, on the point, and given very good answers. I understand why he wanted to defend himself in this debate, because when Biden tried to lie about very specific things that have been clearly debunked, it's just like, bro, how are people still believing this stuff?
And Trump wasn't as mean as he could have been. Like, he was...
He held back.
He was a little more reserved.
Yeah. He's acting more presidential.
Probably because he's sick of fucking around with these mother effers.
Yeah.
I feel like don't we have to limit the amount of F-bombs we drop per episode?
Oh, we'd have to read up on that again.
See what YouTube's policy is.
If I remember, it's just within such a time frame.
You guys about ready to wrap this one up?
Oh yeah, hit that.
Yeah, I think so.
Thanks for joining, guys.
Kick that outro right in the shin bone.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Give
it
him the
hurts.
good
Yeah.
old Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Huh?
Come on, man.
Yeah, come on, man.
Come on, man.
From my hairy legs.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Let us know who you'd vote for, whether it's Dementia Joe or does Trump have a nickname?
Orange Man.
Orange Man.
I'm writing in Harambe.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, but like, comment, share, subscribe. Let us know what we should do after our... How many more episodes we got of? Like
3?
I think I need to convince Amjad to come on here and do the determinism versus free will debate.
Yep.
Well, I do have one guest lined up for after we're done with this, or whenever he's available. Really, I got to go up and talk to him. But
Yeah, I got to see when Amjad's availability is, and because it seems like I can never get him to. So, like, the moment he says he's got an available Monday, I'm going to be like, all right, come on, let's do this.
I've got one person that absolutely, and I'm trying to convince 2 more for a more heavy episode on addiction and recovery.
okay,
But yeah, I feel like I've kind of pushed all these episodes on you guys, so let's start lightening things up for a little bit. You know?
yeah.
These have been kind of more
Well, I'll be,
in-depth constitutional.
I'll be seeing Amjad
political.
this week, and I'll ask him when he's got a Monday available. Because I don't think I'll be here next Monday. Is next Monday the 8th? Doing some family.
7 days from now, yeah.
Doing some family stuff.
Yes, sir.
Ah, yeah.
8th, 15th, 20th. All right, finish up that outro. Let's,
Yep. Well, on that note, I think we've said everything that we were saying. So, goodbye.